Hi everyone, it's Lauren. I hope you're all doing really well. I have a tag video for you today. We're going to be doing the Reader Problems book tag, which was created by Tiffany at About to Read. I will link her original video in the description box below. Nobody tagged me to do this video, I just thought it sounded fun. And I feel like it's quite rare that I actually find tag videos that I have answers for, because I feel like a lot of the booktube tags that go around are like, who do you fancy in a book? Or like, oh, who do you want to be together? It's just like weird stuff, like what name a colour on a cover that you like. It was just really naff. So I like when the questions are like actual questions about your readership. So I just thought I'd do it. And if you would like to do it, consider yourself tagged and let me know what your answers to these questions are as well if you don't have a channel. So I've got the questions here on my phone, and number one is, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? Doesn't know how true it is. So I have a lot of books under my bed. I do have some on display around my flat, but we have a one-bedroom flat which is quite small. So I was previously trying to go through all of the books that I had on my shelves because they were in front of me, and that was quite a good system because it meant it narrowed my TBR down quite a lot. And sort of made me read the books that are in front of me. But I've done that now, so I'm trying to read the books that are hidden under my bed, and basically I tend to go through them perhaps every 3 months. That's when I tend to shoot a TBR video, and then pick a few and pile them up underneath my desk, sort of down there. So I have a little pile of books that I want to read down there. I don't like restricting my reading too much by saying you have to read these books, because then I find if I do that, suddenly I don't want to read them anymore. But I quite like narrowing it to a certain extent, because otherwise I just wouldn't know where to start. Question 2 is, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? Absolutely quit. Like, there's no question. Why should I finish a book that I'm not enjoying? So there are a few exceptions. I tend to give a book either 100 pages or maybe getting to halfway. It depends on the length of the book before I decide whether I'm going to keep going with it or not. I think I do finish them if, I don't know, there's some reason, like I'm trying to read a load of books on a prize shortlist, or I don't know, I can't think of really another reason why I would finish it, or I'm doing it for a book club or something and I feel like I ought to know what happens in the story to be able to talk about it properly. But no, like, life's too short, just stop reading it. Question 3 is, the end of the year is coming and you're so close but so far on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try and catch up, and how? And I mean, this happens to me every year. I do try and I feel like I'm more likely to try and catch up on my Goodreads challenge like earlier in the year. Like at the end of the year, I'm just like, oh, read 20 books in a week. Obviously not. And I tend to give up. But I more judge how much I'm reading based on how many books I have to talk about in a video each month. Because that kind of keeps me on track. If I'm like, I've only got 2 books to talk about, I'll be like, oh no, I need to read something. Otherwise the video is going to be very boring. So I try and read shorter books. Like maybe short story collections, that kind of thing. I also boost it by listening to audiobooks, which I tend to listen to kind of throughout the month, like while I'm cooking or while I'm running, so that kind of takes up some extra time. It is what it is. If I don't hit my Goodreads challenge, like, who cares? Question 4, the covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I actually don't cope very well. So the only series I've got that I've really loved recently is the Winter Night trilogy. And I had the first 2 in paperback, and the last one I got sent a proof. And I really like the trilogy and I put them on my bookshelf, but I just got rid of the proof. I gave it away. Because I just didn't want it in my, like, it's like a really weird size and it didn't match the other 2, and I'm gonna buy it in paperback so that it matches. I'm more likely to do this, I think, or get annoyed about this issue if it's books by the same author, because I like them all matching, and sometimes, you know, certain books get reissued or like in different designs and stuff, and I do prefer it to match. But I haven't really hit that problem yet, I think, because I have so few books actually on display. It's not a very big issue. When we move house and I have a much bigger bookcase, this might start becoming a problem for me, because I will just buy another book so that things match, and it's not a very sustainable way to live. Question 5, everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? I need to find somebody who doesn't like it normally. I will normally talk to other people, like on here, like I'll leave like a ranty voice note or something, or I'll talk to Jen or Jean, or I don't know, somebody I'm friends with. I don't think I can't think of a book that I've really hated that everyone else has loved, that there's not been a single other person who hasn't hated it or as well, or hasn't had sort of feelings on it. And also sometimes I think I find it easier to talk to people who haven't read it, because I can just tell them, oh, it's really bad, this book, I hate it, and they go, oh, okay. And that's kind of easier than talking to someone else who maybe liked it. Question 6, you're reading a book and you're about to start crying in public. How do you deal? Question mark. Have I ever cried in public? I have definitely cried at home over a book. I think I don't get in that headspace if I'm in public, actually. I can't think of a single situation where that's happened. Question number 7, a sequel to a book that you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip to the sequel, try and find a synopsis on Goodreads, or cry in frustration? I would just read the book. This has happened to me quite a lot, actually. I think, well, I say quite a lot. I don't read series that often, but when I do have normally forgotten what's happened previously. I would just go on to the next book because I just don't have time to reread, and that's fine. And I always think, oh, I'll remember as I read the sequel. I'll get the hang of it. And if there's anything I don't remember, I will then, I'll look up a synopsis online or something if I've forgotten who a certain character was or something like that. But generally, I just dive in into the deep end and maybe struggle a little bit for the first couple of chapters. Question 8, you do not want anyone to borrow your books. How do you politely tell people no when they ask? This only happens with certain books. Mostly I don't care, especially I will make a note of who has what, because sometimes I just want to know where the books are so I can get them back. But I don't mind people borrowing my books at all, but I have, my friend recently borrowed my His Dark Materials trilogy, and I was a bit like, can you be careful with them? And I just feel like a bit of a loser. I was like, could you just not read them in the bath or something, just because they're the ones I've had since I was a child and I don't want anything to happen to them. But other than that, I think I'm generally all right with people borrowing them. Question 9, reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? This is quite hard. I don't really know how I get over a reading slump. I think normally I try and just clear my TBR and just go through all of my other books. So I don't try and limit myself to what I'm going to read. I might look under my bed and just sort of start from scratch, or actually buy a new book. I think that sort of helps. If I've heard someone talk about a book that I haven't got yet, then that's good. That's kind of good to get me excited. I think the trouble with BookTube, which all of us can relate to, is that someone else talking about a book they really love just inspires you so much, and it's so easy to get swept up in somebody else's excitement and think, yes, I must read this book. And I think that is quite useful if you're not feeling anything that you're reading, or you've just not read anything good in a while. Trying to look at what other people have really enjoyed and maybe hop onto their excitement a little bit. I think that's helpful. And question 10, funnily enough, there are so many new books out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? Far too many. I don't go shopping very often. I try and limit myself. Sometimes I will buy books on my Kindle, because I think that, for some reason, I think more about how much books cost when they're on my Kindle, because I expect them to not be very expensive. I don't know why, but sometimes they have deals, or I feel like I'm not getting a physical book. So if something's full price on Kindle, I'm like, well, what am I getting for this? So I'm much more likely to not buy it. And I try not to buy books online unless I can't get them very easily. So I just try not and don't go to bookshops, because when I do, I buy everything. I absolutely let loose, and I don't think about the money until afterwards. I don't have an answer for this, because I don't have a method of dealing with this problem, because I don't deal with it. I just buy the books. But it is really hard. It's hard when you hear about so many good new things and you want to read them all. Of course I do. I'm passionate about reading. And question 11 is, after you've bought the new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? Literally years. I am dreadful. I think either one or two things happen. Either I literally start reading it that day, or the day it's the next book I pick up, or then I leave it. Because if I don't capitalise on that excitement of the new book, then it just becomes one of many books on my shelf, and I don't read it, especially if I put it under my bed. That is death for one of my books. If it gets put under the bed, it's piled up and I don't see it again for about 6 months. So I do feel part of the excitement is buying it. And I do feel so much more relaxed when I've actually bought it, and I'm like, oh, that's good. when I'm ready, I can read that now. And I just feel it's like the possibility of being able to read. Like I have the capability in my hands, and that's enough for me apparently. So I'd love to hear your answers to these questions in the comments below, as I said, or let me know if you're going to film this video yourself, if you have a booktube channel. I don't know how enlightening that was really. I just like talking about books and talking about reading, so I answered some of those questions today. Let me know if you'd like to see more tags from me, or any specific tags you'd like me to attack, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.